Okay, so we're just going to give it another minute, and then I'm going to keep you guys on mute while we do the interview. And then we're going to open it up at the end for questions. Mike is going to graciously take any questions at the end. And so I'll unmute you as the questions come in. So welcome to our Friday afternoon talk. We're very honored and excited to have Mike Hirthler here today as our special guest. Mike is joining us from his office. He keeps telling me I'm the only one here. And we're so grateful to have him here. Mike and I was thinking about this before we got on here live. And is it 8 years ago that we were introduced?
2013. So yeah, seven years.
Yeah. Okay. So 7 years. Wow. Mm-hmm. And it feels like yesterday in a way. Mm-hmm. And, and I'm very grateful that you came into my life because I've learned so much from you. And Mike has been just a mentor to us at Studio B. He serves on our board of advisors, which we're very grateful for. And of course, he's just a wonderful person in our community and a great friend. So we're just thrilled to have him here. So I just wanted to go ahead and I'm going to read Mike's bio, and then we're going to jump right into a bunch of great questions we have because we're really curious about how you're managing through this crisis, and any good advice we could get from you on how to navigate this uncertainty, so especially in relation to the markets. So welcoming Michael Hirthler from Jacobi Capital Management. Mike is the founder and chief investment officer at Jacobi Capital. Mike has over 30 years of investment experience, beginning in 1985 with Thompson McKinnon Securities. In 1992, he became fully independent and opened a Wilkes Barre branch office of LPL Financial. Over the years, he successfully built his investment practice, and in 2008 founded Jacobi Capital Management, a registered investment advisor. Michael's commitment to focusing on the individual extends to the community through his philanthropy and active and former involvement with various boards, including Catholic Youth Center, the YMCA Board of Trustees, Volunteers in Medicine, the Luzerne Foundation, Salvation Army, Junior Achievement NEPA, the Kirby Center for the Performing Arts, and Geisinger Wyoming Valley Medical Center Advisory Board. In 2012, Michael received one of Luzerne County's top community service awards for his continued commitment to improving our community. Michael earned his bachelor's degree in economics from Dickinson College. He lives in Jackson Township, Pennsylvania, with his wonderful wife, Kathleen, and together they have 2 grown children. So Michael, welcome to the Studio B platform today. We're so honored and grateful for your time.
No, I'm humbled to be here, and thanks for the way past kind words. Yeah, 2013 does seem like yesterday, and Jen, I probably wouldn't be walking to work today if not for Jen. I mean, I drive, but walking to work. She helped me out at a period where I had some extensive back issues and surgery, and I'll never forget the times we spent together there. It was a difficult time period, and Jen definitely helped me out more than most physicians and therapists, et cetera. So she's incredibly committed to what she does and a very valuable resource in a lot of levels. So I appreciate being here.
Well, thank you, Mike. It was we always had a lot of fun in those sessions, and we always talked a lot, which muted myself. I normally do, we normally don't talk in private yoga sessions, but Mike and I always kept the chatter going, so they always went by rather quickly. Mike, we're just like we're in the midst of such uncertainty right now. And, as a trusted resource and good friend, we've talked a little bit about what this all means and how it's impacting you personally, how it's impacted the financial services industry, your business and your clients. You mentioned something that really stuck with me, and I was hoping you could share a little bit about your logo for Jacobi Capital and what that means and some of the insights that you've that have come to you over the past couple of weeks about how it's relevant to what we're dealing with right now.
Sure. So the logo, we had it done a couple years ago. I don't know if you could see this, if people could see it, but that's the logo.
Yep, we could see it.
It's kind of like an infinity symbol, but what it is are 4 J's. So Jacobi with a J. So Carl Jacobi was a German algebraist who said most problems could be solved by inverting, which means thinking them through backwards. So if a year from now you want to get into shape and lose 10 pounds, put yourself to April 10th, 2021 and say, why didn't I lose 10 pounds? Well, I ate those cookies every night. So then just don't do that. So when you think about it, it's not trying to predict the future. It's bringing the future back till today. And a lot of what you have taught me, and even all of our interactions with Studio B is about being present and in today. And I think that's really relevant. And interestingly, those 4 J's that some people think they're fish hooks or the infinity sign, what it really was meant to symbolize was the fact that every cycle in the history of time has ended. Every good cycle, every bad cycle. By cycles, economics, stock markets. Interestingly, every virus has ended and a new one has began. And we put that symbol on to remind us that, the good times don't go on forever. The bad times don't last forever either. So we need that reminder, that consistent reminder. And it's helped us a lot, even in this situation, it was only back in January where we were having difficult conversations with clients about being too optimistic. And now we're reversing, we're saying, remember, we said every cycle ends. We have to remember that let's not get too negative. It pays always to be optimistic.
Awesome. So impermanence at its best, really.
Impermanence, yes.
Yeah, just trusting that. And it's such a good reminder, something that we could really root into.
Yep.
Yeah. So tell us, how has the COVID-19 crisis, how has it impacted you personally, professionally, in your relationships?
So this is the one event that there's 7 billion people in the world. Everyone's affected equally. And 330 million Americans were all affected equally. So we're all under the same pressure, stress. I think in our side of the business, which is money management and financial planning, what I've noticed differently it's different from what's called bear markets. Bear markets are when stocks go down a lot. So there was the internet bubble, they burst, and 9/11, people lost 50, 60% of their money on paper. The financial crisis, same thing, markets dropped 50%. Then in our industry, you would talk to people about, they were worried. And at all those times they're worried about, usually about their money, their jobs, if they have family members, jobs, etc. This is different in the fact that all the conversations have been about, for sure, how's my money, but also am I going to have for people their jobs, their careers, their health, and their mortality. And that's made it a lot different than previous episodes in my career. I've never talked to people about health and mortality concerns, that they all have. Everyone has the same concerns.
Right. And so they're literally, coming to you with these questions, and it must be, completely unsettling to hear your clients open up like that. But I think we're all experiencing that. We're feeling
Mhm.
like we need to connect.
Yes, yeah, it's been unsettling is yeah a good description. Uh, it's intense, a lot of intensity. I would say that if you guys remember March 23rd, that Monday,
Mhm.
through this crisis so far, that was like an incredibly intense day at all. Everything kind of, I think, hit home that day. Everybody realized we're not going back to work. It's not life as normal. And the numbers started multiplying quickly as far as people getting sick and dying. And the stock markets were crashing. So that was a difficult. It remains difficult, but yeah, those were difficult conversations.
And how have you, as a business leader, as the founder, chief investment officer within Jacobi Capital, has the crisis changed the dynamics within your team and group? Like, how are you keeping your team staying positive? And I know something that you always say to me, which has been really impactful, is, I really always want my people to feel safe here. And so I'm curious how that's come into play right now.
Yeah, so we had talked about that, and interestingly, so probably the proudest moment of my career, to brag a little, back in October, we were asked by the Wall Street Journal to come to this conference in Philadelphia for every advisor from the Northeast region, and to take our team and present how to have a culture. And we talked about a culture of safety, what type of culture to build your practice, your business, et cetera. So it was easy to talk about that then. And what I was very proud, and today I'm probably more proud of that team because now they're living it, right? Like they are coming through, everybody's working remotely. I would say the last 3 or 4 weeks, I don't think anybody has not worked from 7 in the morning till 7 at night. Not that that's what we want everyone to do, but I think to see how everybody has risen to this occasion and supported each other. Early on, I think we just all agreed, we put out, there is no right or wrong answer right now. For us working together, you're safe to make decisions. There's no right or wrong answers for clients if they want to buy, if they want to sell. We can't really help. I mean, we could help them, but we can't come through with a firm answer. And I think that acceptance that in this crisis, that there was so much unknown. There's always uncertainty, but this was an elevated sense of that we all agreed. And it was easier to support each other when we agreed that there was nothing, you were safe to make every decision and to help every client make each decision. And what I've noticed, and it's something that our instructions with Studio B has helped us through this, we just got started right before this crisis, is it's really, really powerful to have empathy and acceptance. And we've got to accept what's happening and to have empathy for our clients, our colleagues, for each other, and as you have taught us, for ourselves. Like, it's okay. It's nobody's fault. We're all in this together, and have an understanding. And that's been, I think, that empathy and acceptance, and to put that, we've kind of talked about that every day in our emails, has truly, truly helped us in understanding in our interactions with our clients.
Wow, that's so powerful. Yeah.
It has
I
been.
hope that, what I keep thinking about a lot, and what I'm trying to keep my eye on the silver linings. We've talked about this too, and just,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the blessings are here. We just have to maybe look a little bit deeper to find them some
Mm-hmm.
days. Um, and what we've talked about a lot is that on the other side of this, there's this potential, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
such incredible potential because we're having this collective global experience, and we really are all in this together. That kindness means so much right now.
Yeah.
Empathy and compassion means so much right now, that we can't ever forget that. And I hope that when we get to the other side of this, that's one lingering memory of how important that was and will continue to be. So along that line, with everything, I literally describe this experience as being on an emotional roller coaster, like every single day I'm experiencing fear, anger, frustration, joy, happiness, there's both. And I'm just curious, how are you finding your ground during this time? How are you what are you leaning into for yourself just to stay steady?
I would say, it's been really difficult, and it's okay to have these mutually exclusive feelings, fear, optimism, that we really aren't supposed to have at the same time. It could be because everything is moving so quickly. We had some calls this morning with clients, and it's interesting. Usually things go through these longer term periods where people are excited or they're discouraged about their investments. And those cycles last months and years. Now they're lasting like from breakfast to lunch. They go from despair to excitement. So it is faster than anything we've ever seen in our lives. And markets are indicative of that. But yeah, everything, information is flowing so fast, changes are flowing so fast. It's difficult, but I think the mindfulness has really helped us a lot. And we're actually, when we were trying to define it, we're coming up with some of our own definitions. And I don't know, but it's just the act of paying attention to where we are now. And a lot of times our clients want us to predict the future for them. And we always say, well, let's try to prepare for ranges of outcomes in the future, because predictions they never work. Like they're usually, Yogi Berra said prediction's really hard, especially when it's about the future. And so mindfulness has helped us stay like that, or deal with that groundlessness, in the sense that we're able to say, if we want to have a positive effect on the future, we have to bring ourselves to today and notice what is changing around us. I think when we lament the past, mistakes that we've made, things that we didn't do to prepare for these type of black swans, and then just try to predict long in the future, we lose sight of what we're not adapting to, because things are definitely changing and we're going to have dramatic change coming out of this. If we're not present in today, we're going to miss that. And I think that level of concentration is where we have to keep ourselves right now, or we're not going to be able to, come out of this in a good way and help people.
Right. So concentration on reality, what's happening right now. And you said something that caught my attention. You said, while still remaining open.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is so key. That's such good advice for all of us. Like, how do we find that steadiness and move through the situation with more ease, but also stay more open to opportunities? Is that what you're referring to as far as the markets go?
Yeah, and just not just the markets, like our business. We had talked the other day, I think coming out of this, in all businesses, you're going to see tremendous innovation. Everybody's sitting at home trying to figure out new and better ways to do things. And as opposed, I think the people that are sitting at home and saying, like, they're very cynical, life is going to be horrible for all of us years down the road, and making that prediction, they're probably not going to come out okay. I think it's better to be, as we said, optimistic, but also maybe skeptical of some things, because things are changing, like skeptical of predictions, if you will, and open to what we see around us now, and adapting to what we see. And I think that's where empathy and acceptance of what it is. It might be things that philosophically, ideologically, like we disagree with, or somehow, or it doesn't. It's not in like harmony with our thoughts, but we've got to be open to what it is, like what. So I used the example to people the other day. Let's say from an investment perspective, you came up with this idea and you said, people are going to order food a lot more. So let's buy like Grubhub stock. Well, maybe if you have $100,000, you don't put it all into Grubhub stock. Maybe you say, oh, over the next 10 years, this is going to happen. And you place bets around different things and areas. But if you just stay myopic to that one stock or idea, you're probably not going to have a good outcome unless you're lucky. So I always staying open and avoiding some ideologies and we all have these biases that drive us, and like it's easy to see in others, but difficult to see in ourselves. And we're really trying to be mindful of those right now more than ever, because decision making, Kathleen said something to me today. She said, I have decision fatigue. So when you have decision fatigue, we all have that. Like you had a long morning this morning we did, and with decision fatigue, you're apt to go to these heuristics and you're susceptible to believing predictions and outcomes that are agreement with something, and that could be dangerous.
Yeah. I absolutely felt, as you mentioned, like it was a tough morning for us. And I noticed how that, some of the news we were getting was just like gripping me and pushing me into a really cynical kind of reactivity.
Yeah.
So it could happen. It happens to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
it's a good, it's about catching it. I was able to catch myself and, stop making decisions and talk to my son Josh is in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of shifted me out of that mode. But it's all about catching those triggers,
Yeah.
at overwhelm. I'm wondering, what are you really curious about right now? Like, as far as industry goes or the markets, like what are you drawn to, what are you curious about? Do you feel this curiosity kind of bubbling up?
Yeah, good question. I'm we're all looking for answers, like for what tomorrow is going to be. But what I've been curious about is I don't know if it's curious, but by nature, like I'm more of a hero worshiper. So I look for heroes, people that I could. I'm more of an imposter. I don't have original ideas. Like I copy people that have done good job, good work. And so I'm looking and I'm seeing that in colleagues. I'm seeing that in clients and family members, in friends. I see that. I told you in the adversity, you and Christine and everybody launching this business right in the heat of this tornado, and how you've gracefully handled that and still are out there trying to help your clients through this, and they don't see that side of you. Like that's the kind of behavior that it's not that I love seeing that now. Like we're seeing the best of human beings, and kindness, like you said, is going to come out of this. And you're finding new heroes every day. You're seeing things in friends and family members and business people, or for sure, we know like the gratitude that we all owe people that give us food in the grocery stores. I mean, they didn't sign up to risk their lives. Doctors didn't sign up to risk their lives. Nurses didn't sign up to risk their lives. And then the new heroes every day on a national scale, to see somebody like Bill Gates, he could just go spend his money and buy things, and he's always been about making the world a better place. And now has been for 20 years actively involved in, by the way, like virus cures, et cetera, vaccines, has put billions of dollars into that, and is going to continue to do that for this coronavirus. And to see an interview with him yesterday, and it's just so, it makes you feel good about the future, and it inspires you. And to see a beautiful mind and soul like that, and new people every night on TV, Dr. Fauci, I mean, he's 79 years old. He's been doing stuff for us for 50 years, protecting us. And now we all know who he is, and he's up there. And I mean, there's some like really neat stuff like that inspires me and makes us all want to get out and get to work and be like those people.
Yeah, such a good answer. the human heart, the capacity of the human heart, you know, truly is boundless. And I think that we could all resonate with those words, and just feeling, you know,
Mm-hmm.
just feeling this incredible gratitude and feeling inspired by these heroes, everyday heroes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
They are just unsung and they're out there. And
Yeah.
a really, really good friend. I mean, it hit home last night hard. A friend that I grew up with, and we've been friends since 5 years old. And his sister, you know, she's out there. She's sick, and she's a nurse, and it's you know, you think it's this disease you see on TV and numbers and statistics, and it's going to hit home for all of us, you know, and that's difficult, you know. And it's nice, like I said, though, to see these other people stepping up. But she's a person that stepped up in healthcare, and she's really sick right now.
So I'm very sorry. I hope is she in the hospital?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We'll be thinking about her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's affecting all of us, and it is, you know, hitting close to home. And
Yeah.
you know, we have a few people within our inner circle that have gotten sick too, and it's scary, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of fear. There's an incredible amount of fear.
And you see Chris Cuomo on CNN at night. He broadcast homesick with the
Yeah,
coronavirus. And this
yeah,
big 6'3", 230-pound guy. And the other night when he sat there and he said, "Look, and I'm really afraid," you know, like he's a big Italian stallion, you know, and he said, "I'm scared," you know. So
yeah,
you
yeah.
really,
It puts things into perspective, right?
mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um, and I think that it certainly puts these financial fears into perspective too. And
mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, like, what are you seeing? Like, what is your advice on how we navigate this with the qualities that we've talked about? You know, how do we navigate um, making good decisions out of this ground of steadiness? You know, making smart decisions, not getting pigeonholed by the biases that we all hold. Like, what are you recommending to your clients? What advice can you give us?
Sure. Well, events like this always get people back to the basics, and really, it's for a lot of our clients, it's what do you need for liquidity? So liquidity being, do you have a need for these funds in the short term? For that, it shouldn't be in the markets. So we have to make sure that we have that covered. And usually there's rules of thumb that people try to say, well, have 6 months of your expenses in an account that, you know, if you lost your job or your career, you could survive for that 6 months before you find a new job, new career. Some people that are retired want to do that. Some, we say you want to get 5 or 6 years of liquidity, you know, to make sure, because historically then when you look, as we said, every cycle ends, and as difficult as this seems that it won't end, it will. But if you don't want to take that money out today when it's down a lot, if you have good investments, they're going to come back up. And we just kind of go through that with people, go through their asset allocation, and make sure they're in the right spots and comfortable, to make sure that they have the ability to survive this crisis financially.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've been there for most people, like people that took a little bit more risk than they should have. Like, they have to now decide if they want to stay in those type of risk allocations.
Right, right. So it's a very personal, you know, individual, unique. There's unique decisions for each person and
Mm-hmm.
words. Yeah, that makes sense.
And
Absolutely.
it's fluid and changing. Somebody might have had a wonderful business a month ago and thought, I don't need a lot of money there for myself. And that business, as we know, we're all shut down, is shut down, and overnight it changed. So we're reaching out and making sure, and clients are reaching out to us just to get updates on where they stand and what they need.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. That's great that you're there for them. I know you and your team, and having spent time with everyone, I know how hard they're all working right now. So I'm sure it's very much appreciated.
Yeah, no, everybody's working hard. Good.
Yeah. So I'm curious. So we've been working with you and your team since early in the year, and we're about almost halfway through some of the training, and I'm just wondering, what have you found really helpful as far as our training goes? Like, what practices really stand out for you personally from what you've learned through the signature series?
Uh, yeah, that's a good question. So I think just the breathing exercises, because when you're here all day and you're on the phone, when I get home and I tell Kathleen it's 8 o'clock at night, like you can't even pick your arm up or your head, and you're in this like locked position, or
Yeah.
we all are, for 10 or 12 hours. And it's almost those 4 o'clock sessions that we have where you say, sit back and breathe. You realize you haven't breathed for
Right.
8 or 9 hours, and you haven't, therefore you're in this state that you're really not thinking at a high level either. You're reacting. So I think it's helped us get back in the thinking mode as opposed to reacting, and just to sit back and realize, and like, as you've taught us, to understand ourselves, have empathy for ourselves and everyone around us, and just reframe those thoughts. I think that's a good way to describe it. Like, reframe all these emotions that are going through all of our brains, like try to quiet those down, settle them down, reframe it so that you could do optimal work for everybody and yourself. I think that's been invaluable. It's almost, it's the serendipity of this starting that program right during this crisis for us has been, everybody has talked about how much that has meant to them and helped them get through this. Probably the greatest thing that it's done is we haven't seen each other for 4 weeks. So the Zoom sessions with you is the only chance we get to see each other collectively. So just that has been a positive endorphin, and to be doing this together and going through it together, although we are apart, that's been a godsend. It really has.
Oh, that's good to hear. Yeah, alone together, that term, the hashtag alone.
Exactly. Yeah, I like that.
It's meaningful, and
Mhm.
it is always great there's definitely a sense of camaraderie that I'm noticing on those
Mhm.
calls as well. So that's good to hear that you're seeing that. Um, in this time, and this just, it's just very challenging. We could all agree on that. What gives you life? Like, how do you just, on the weekends, how do you step away from this? Are you stepping away from it? Like,
Mhm.
what, how do you just let go of it?
Well, if you talk to Kathleen, she'll tell you our Crown Royal Manhattans on Saturday night, helps. Can't have those every night. We actually have, with some friends, like a bottle exchange going on. People that like gin or vodka, and we like this or that. Like, we're leaving it on each other's porches. So that's a new dynamic through this. There's these various types of alcohol swaps going on. It's kind of funny. No, but really just we're fortunate to have the ability, we live out by you and it's peace and quiet, and to go for a walk and to meditate and to just get your mind framework in that spot where you slow everything down. To have the ability to read and think is about all we could do right now. And that's not such a bad thing. It's a good thing. If anything, it gets us all caught up in our reading and thinking. So I've tried to do a lot of that. Fortunately, the weather's breaking, so I told you I will go out to Penn State, walk around, and just try to clear your head doing that and getting away from the Crown Royal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably really good advice. Yeah, we are so fortunate. We're in northeastern Pennsylvania. I know many of you on the call are as well, and we're so fortunate to live in a community that we have so many beautiful natural spaces, outdoor spaces to walk and be in nature, and
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just so hopeful that that will continue on the other side of this, because you go
Mhm.
out and you see, we were walking on the dike, just Paula and I, just, it seems like a while ago, but it was really only probably 2 weeks ago. And there's
Mhm.
tons of people out walking and,
Yeah.
and enjoying the fresh air and looking around. So this opportunity for connection, is really profound. And I know you have 2 grown kids, and
Mhm.
they're living out of the area. How are you staying connected with your closest relationships, with people? What are you finding challenging about that? What are you missing, and what's been meaningful?
Yeah. So there's these text chains, text, right, and pictures and jokes, and then have done with our adult children and Zoom sessions, and some other family members and phone calls, like everybody. I think where everybody's 3 to 5 weeks into this, and we're all hopeful that we could see each other soon, right? It's as we said earlier, we're all kind of I think we're hitting in a marathon. They say at 20 miles, you hit that wall. Hopefully we're at like 20 miles. There's still 6 miles to go, but I think we hit the wall as far as I know you're missing your son in Florida, and we're missing our son and daughter, and they have significant others, not married yet, but significant others. And we're all hopeful to be together soon. But these are, with Easter, the Easter holiday, and all these life events that we all have, school, the kids and seniors in school are going through all these things, and they can't have their our son's significant others graduating from law school, and there is no graduation, all that work and time, and everybody has that. And oh geez, the heartache that people are going through. So I think it's just going to be nice for all of us to see each other. And we've all had this, I was talking to my son about it, like our reset, and it's a good reset, because the reset, it's not about things that we don't have, it's about things that we have that matter the most. It's not about like the material things that we don't have. And it's incredible how through this reset, um, it's been a powerful message, not like, oh, to appreciate that you always hope you appreciate, but it's just remarkable how much you realize you don't even like need or want things. And I think that's pretty good I hear that over and over again from a lot of people in different words or et cetera, but I call it like this kind of a reset. And you just want to have a burger and a Manhattan or a beer or whatever, a glass of wine or soda with your friends and family,
Right.
and laugh
Right.
a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we could all relate to that. We could all
Mhm.
relate to that. When you said back to basics, I was reminded of an article I read yesterday, and it was about Clorox and Lysol.
Yeah.
and it was talking about like, hey, when are these going to be back in stock, and how did we run out of it so fast? And they
Mhm.
had representatives from the companies kind of saying, well, like, we haven't been in vogue for a long time. Right? Like,
Mhm.
our purchasing history is pretty standard. Like, we don't see big rises like this. And I guess the second and third week of March, they were experiencing like 400% more demand than they normally see. And so I'm curious. Yeah, I'll have to send you that article. You would like it.
Mhm.
But I'm just wondering, because I know and you're always kind of thinking ahead. Like, who do you think comes out of this on top? Like, from a product perspective or industry perspective, like, who do you think's gonna come out on the other side of this surprisingly well? What industry?
Mhm. So I think the digital world, and this is obvious, but the digital world, people using digital strategies, companies using digital strategies, are that growth trajectory that's been on, the easy as Amazon, Google, Netflix. that growth trajectory, I think whatever it was going to be over 10 years might have just been condensed into happening the next 2 or 3 years. And I'm pretty sure, again, you can't predict the future, but here's what I'm sure of. These are easy. You're going to see an explosion of innovation, and you're going to see that curve. They're called these power law curves, these big dramatic changes that take 10 years. That's going to be something 3, 4, 5 years. It's going to happen much, much faster. I have a conference call with friends of mine in Denver on Tuesday, and I would gladly share these fellows. I really respect and admire them in money management, and their name of their company is NZS, non-zero sum capital, and we had talked about this, and it's kind of their thesis is, and they've managed billions of dollars through the years. They're very, very smart and very good at what they do. They're actually physicists, but money managers, so they're scientists. But these non-zero sum companies are companies that benefit their shareholders, obviously, management, their customers, their community, their environment. And I could share a list of companies that currently do that. But I think they're going to have explosive growth. And I think a lot of the companies that have been just kind of surviving, and we call them like legacy businesses, they're going to be, the pace of disruption is going to pick up. But interestingly, I think this is going to speed the change towards, and it's not, there's a term called ESG investing, environmental social governance. It's that, but it's that, let's say on steroids or turbocharged. There are situations where everybody wins, and there are companies doing that, and they're going to be the dominant players that come through this. And that's always what happens during downturns, is the better business models come out stronger and survive. And what's really optimistic about this, what I'm really optimistic and hopeful for, are these better business models are doing a lot of good for society. Yeah, we're going to see changes of how we operate and how we operate with them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, I just keep thinking about, we are all in this together, and to see that industry and business models can really embrace that concept and make decisions that are good for all involved. That gives me a lot of hope.
So IBM has a quantum computer. So the quantum computer, they need a chip. So there's this company called NVIDIA, and they make what's called GPU chips. So if you have a Tesla car, as autonomous driving comes and gaming and everything autonomous and AI, it has to use an NVIDIA chip, most likely. So IBM, in the last couple of weeks, this quantum computer had millions of these GPUs from a company called NVIDIA. And then they did all these calculations, billions of calculations. So they took the time down to all these, and I'm not a scientist or a biologist, but I guess biologics. So what would take scientists just on our computers that we have here 3 or 4 years to do these computations, they did that in about 4 days, to take it down to 80,000 biologics and then sift through that. So think about it, what used to take 8 or 10 years, they're going to get that down to 12 or 18 months. Yeah. So there's stuff like that that's happening that's really, really exciting and interesting. And the future's always going to be better. That's what's interesting. We all think it's not going to be, but it always ends up better. Our kids and grandkids, they're going to have it better than us.
Well, that brings me a lot of hope too. Absolutely. Yeah. So I want to open this up because I know there's probably a lot of questions from everyone that's on the call today. Is there anything you want to add before we open it up to questions, or?
No, I'm good. You had asked me what does resilience mean to me, right? Yeah. Or who gives you resilience? And I have to say, I shared this story 2 weeks ago, and Kathleen knows this story, and I shared it with everyone, but it was my mom and dad's 69th wedding anniversary, Yeah. And in there, I said, think of the audacity of Harold, my dad to ask Mary, his wife, at 18 years old to run away and get married, right? And they would go on to have 7 children. But interestingly, and raise them. And 69 years later, they like talk about resilience, all that they've been through. Like, I won't get into all that, but really good and bad life. They've been through life. So, but in 1972, I was 9 years old, and I'm 57 tomorrow, by the way. So,
Oh,
so
happy birthday.
the Agnes flood, thank you. And the flood came, and we had just built a house. My dad was a house painter, interestingly, and it floated away 2 blocks away. So my mom and dad were 38, 39 years old, 7 kids. You came home, and everybody in South Wilkes-Barre, all our friends' businesses, Kathleen's mom and dad had an oil home heating company, gone. Houses, all your houses were gone. And we were just coming off an unpopular war. We had to wait in Vietnam. We had to wait in line for gas in 1973, 74. If your license plate was odd or even, you were allowed to go for gasoline. The stock market from 1972 to 74 dropped 55%. So my point is like the resilience of that generation. It's hard to come up with an analogy of this is the whole country and world is under what like South Wilkes-Barre was under, where everybody came home and their lives were just all gone. The river came through and wiped everybody out. And they used to have signs around the valley. It said the valley with a heart. And interestingly, Kathleen reminds me, we used to wait in line for our SBA loans then. Her parents' company, my parents' company, our friends who own the hardware stores and the local restaurants. And then when you waited in line for 3 hours, at the end, they would give you a block of cheese for signing your paperwork. And you came home and that was wonderful and great. But the point is for all those, when I now know how they feel when you say like, is this permanent? It wasn't permanent, like everything, but it was horrible at the time. And this is, when you're going through it, it is always horrible. And you think it never happened before, but it's happened before. And volatility and these events will happen in different ways again, like 9/11 and this, and accepting that and moving forward. What gives me the resilience is looking back in time and people that we know and know of that have gotten through it and persevered and, survived and how they did it. And they did it with just that sense of resilience and optimism and probably no other choices,
Yeah. Yeah. So such good advice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So grateful to hear that. It's such a good reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah. The value at the heart. It's still, I believe that to be true still.
Yeah. That was on every billboard around everything. I think the newspapers, instead of headlines, they just said that every day for like a couple months.
Yeah.
It was as a kid, your parents came home and said, don't worry, right? Like everything will be fine. But now they tell the stories about like you lived on the cheese, we lived in 2 trailers, like our house floated away. So the government gave us 2 trailers because we had 7 kids, so we couldn't fit in one. So that's what you did.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing.
But everybody did it together. Everybody in town, nobody was different. And that's what this is. Everybody's in it together.
Yeah. Here we are. Yeah, here we are. Very good. I
always tell Kathleen, all the people that you dislike that aggravate you, think of how miserable their life is right now. It's the same as yours. You know what I mean? So it's all good.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. All good advice. All good advice. And okay, well, I do want to open up for questions. We have about 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a question, you could just unmute your microphone. Or you could just chat in the question by hovering over the bottom bar, and you'll see a chat feature on the bottom that you can go ahead and ask a question. So.
Hi, Mike. It's Christine.
Hey, Christine.
I don't know that I have a question as much as I have a couple of comments. I wish that everyone on the planet could hear this interview. I found this so inspiring. And as you were talking, I really realized this, that this isn't just a health crisis. This is equally a financial crisis.
Mhm.
And our finances and our money is so tied up in our personal wellness. It just is.
Yeah.
And so in a lot of ways, you and your team and people who do the kind of work that you do in the world are also on the front lines in a different kind of way. You know, much like doctors and nurses are, you are on the front lines in a different kind of way. Because a large percentage of our fear isn't just about our health, our physical health, but it is about our money and our financial well-being. And I don't know that we talk about that enough, that we talk enough very openly and honestly about the kinds of things we are afraid of related to money moving forward. So I really appreciated listening to sort of how you're handling it emotionally, how you're handling this physically, how you're handling this cognitively. You know, when you talked about decision fatigue, you know, you have decision fatigue, I'm sure, in being on the front lines because your clients have decision fatigue.
Right.
And we also we're trying to make decisions, or we might think we need to make decisions about our money from a place of fear, which I think is never a good idea. You know, from a place of fear. And the other thing I was thinking about as you were talking is like if I had to boil it down right now, what so many of us really need is we need to feel safe, and you mentioned this, and we need to feel connected.
Yeah.
Right? Safety and connection. And this idea that your team got chosen to go to the conference a few months ago on team culture, you know, and building and understanding the notion how important safety is, I'm sure has been really, really helpful and supportive to the fact that they're on the front lines right now. So I just really loved everything that you had to say. And thank you.
Oh, thank you.
And I hope everyone who signed up comes to the replay, because it's been really valuable to hear from you. Thank you for all you do.
I don't know, that's the kind words. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, Alyssa.
So there's a question there, Mike.
Is it?
So she said, and I'll give you some of the personal details after the call, but what her question is do you have any advice on when to get into the market? Should we hold off until this passes? Any advice is appreciated. So for somebody that doesn't have significant money in the market right now, is now a good time?
So it's a better time than 2 months ago because prices have come down a lot. Last week they went up a lot. So money that you don't need for the next 4 or 5 years, I would say that it's a good time to start getting in. And I think a good way to do it is, let's just say, I'll just use a number that you had $1,000 to invest. Say I'm going to put in $300 or $400 today. And you can do this very easily with what's called index funds. That anybody could call me and ask, and I could show them how to do that. But and then you say, next month I'm going to put in another, no matter what happens, if stocks go up or down, I'm just going to put it in over the next couple months. So you'll get a decent, probably average price, and knowing that you're going to hold on to that for 5 years. So back in the weekend of the Super Bowl, the cover of Barron's is the Wall Street Journal Saturday weekend edition. It's called Barron's Magazine. And the cover was Dow 30,000. And it said why we're not stopping there, just in February, early February. In other words, the Dow Jones, when people talk about the market, was almost through 30,000. And it had dropped to 19. It's like 22 now. So my point is, it's going to 30,000, where the world thought it was going there 8 weeks ago. And then the next week, even if it takes 7 years from now, that's a 10% a year return on your money, which is really, really good. So if it takes 7 years to get back where people that were in thought, so in those regards, like now and in the next couple months is a decent time to get in. I looked yesterday, the S&P, that's the other market, the S&P 500, that's like 500 stocks. The Dow Jones is 30 stocks. So a lot of people use the S&P 500 and the Dow, but yesterday it closed at the same price that it was at on March 9th for 1 month. Now stop and think of the horrific headlines in 1 month. Now the ride was the roller coaster. It was up and down, but it stayed, and you could go on Yahoo Finance and look at the chart. It's in the same exact spot as March 9th. And the point of that is, like, markets are complex adaptive systems, just as and they adapt to different things, and it's complex. So that's why it's really difficult to predict the market in the short run. In the long run, innovation, et cetera, growth of economy, these companies, you're investing in businesses, they're going up a lot. I mean, they're going up. You're going to do okay. You've always done okay. So, but this complex adaptive nature of markets, like if somebody, all the calls that we had in decisions over the last 30 days, if somebody said 30 days ago, make a bet, you can make a bet the market's going to crash more, they didn't win the bet. If somebody said, put all my money in, the market's going to go way up, they didn't win the bet. It's in the same exact spot. I don't know next week how it'll be. Like, that's a bad prediction to make, but it's good to say, just start putting some of your money in. If you have it now for the long run, any money that you need in a couple years, you should probably never invest. Like, think of those people that thought 8 weeks ago, oh, my money that I need in a couple months, it's good, I'm optimistic. That cycle is going to end, like all of them. And now they're saying, oh, what should I do? I'm down 30% or 20% on the money I need it now. So yeah, like, it's a good time to just, we call it dollar cost average, like average your money in over a couple months.
Yeah, good advice. Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Does anyone else have one last question?
I do.
Awesome.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Paula.
I have a number of friends who are financial advisors, and I was just wondering, like, what you would advise that we could do for our friends who are in a similar profession as you and don't have the kind of practices that you do.
Oh, that's such a kind question. For you to think about them. I think just to tell them, like, all practices, like, we're not heroes here. We get paid to do a job. But I think to tell them that you understand how, like, difficult it could be to make a lot of decisions for other people. Like, when people come to us, I was just on the phone with a couple, they're 65 years old. I mean, we did a Zoom session. They have $4 million. They have to invest. They have to live off this money for the rest of their lives. And they've lived like a good life so far, and they have high expenses. But the decisions they make now are for keeps. Like, what the decisions they make today, that's going to affect them. If they make bad decisions, or I make bad decisions for them, their retirement's not going to be optimal. So I think to tell your friends that you understand that the future is unpredictable, and that they have if they're your friend, they probably have a great process and strategy to think about, and to have that type of empathy for them, and to say, I would let them know that you're just thinking about them in those regards, to say that I understand your job, like any job, could be difficult. You have to get results for people, and when you don't get results, it's sometimes not your fault. Things happen. Sometimes it's your fault, but a lot of times it's not. We get a lot of credit for what's called a bull market. Clients are happy for us. We're like, nah, that was easy. You know what I mean? Like, you could have done that on your own. I think to tell them that you know that it's during these times that they earn their keep, if you will, because it is during the difficult times that you have to rise to the occasion. I mean, just the easy times are easy. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks, Paula.
So, Mike, can you just tell everyone here and everyone that'll be tuning in later, if they're looking for advice, if they would like to do work with you or your firm, like how do they get in touch? How do they find you? And anything else you'd like to promote about Jacobi Capital?
So, thank you for that. I didn't know. So Jacobi Capital Management, our office is on East Mountain in Wilkes Barre up by Geisinger Hospital, 620 Baltimore Drive. And my email is mhirthler, HIRTHLER, at Jacobi Capital, JACOBI CAPITAL.com. And my phone number, I'll give you my cell phone, is 570-954-7411. So yeah, feel free, anybody, to reach out to us. We have as Jen and Christine knows, like a really nice team here, a nice group. We're a low pressure place. We're kind of like, we always say, the anti-Wall Street. We do things a little differently, but yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. And we'll post all of your information as well on our portal page so that folks can find you. And any parting thoughts as we sign off here today?
No, Jen, I just want to thank you and your team and for doing this today. This was really fun. And I want to thank you for all that Studio B has done for Jacobi Capital through this difficult time period. And all that the wonderful business that you built out. And despite everything that's going on, I just think that you guys should be really proud of yourself. You're offering an invaluable service, and I'm just glad to be a beneficiary of that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We're so grateful. So, all right. Awesome, guys.
Everybody else, thank you.
Yes, thank you all so much. And we just appreciate all of you. We'll see you next week, okay? And
Happy Easter, everybody.
Yes, happy Easter to you. Bye. Bye, Kathleen.
Bye, Jen. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.